Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and today I'm making a quick video on a tuner I just picked up from my truck. So after a lot of research and a lot of going back and forth between which one I wanted to pick up, I finally pulled the trigger on the TruXP Xtune Performance Tuner. So this is the TruXP, that's the house brand at Autoanything. This is their tuner that they sell in-house. They brand it under their TruXP brand name. And if you do your research and do some kind of, if you kind of look around at the instruction manuals and a lot of this stuff, you'll notice that the instruction manual for the Xtune Plus is extremely similar to the Flash Pack F5 from Superchips, and I believe it's also similar to the Evo HT2 from Edge. So my understanding, and again, this is just my opinion, but my opinion is all three of these tuners are the exact same tuner. So I paid about 260 bucks for this bad boy on Autoanything, and I think it was well worth the money. So let's go ahead and pop it open. So real quick, this is the TruXP GM diesel and gas tuner. So it's AA2882 model number. And just two main reasons why I got this tuner. One, I wanted to shut off the V4 mode. After I put on bigger tires, I noticed that the truck started going into V4 mode a lot more. And when you're sitting in rush hour traffic, it's a lot of jerking back and forth when it's popping in and out, especially in stop and go traffic. So I figure best to get rid of it altogether and get back to V8 100% of the time. Then the second reason I got this tuner is because, like I just said, I put 33s on the truck, and that's I think about 1.5 inches to 2 inches larger than the OEM tires. So that required me to recalibrate my speedo. So with this tuner, you could do that. And again, with most tuners, you could do those two primary things. Now, what this also comes with is a couple can tunes. I don't really care about the can tunes. I mean, I know a lot of people want the custom tuning that they can get through, you could get emailed to you, or you can get customized for your specific vehicle with your bolt-ons that you've done. But I don't really need that much tuning. I mean, I like to tinker around with little things here and there, but I want this truck for the long haul, and in my opinion, you start messing around with a lot of that tuning, and I don't need a race car. This isn't a Corvette. At the end of the day, it's a truck. I need this truck to last me 150,000 miles. So hopefully, just with these two little minor upgrades, I won't impact that. But again, I didn't go out of my way to get any particular tuner with can tunes on it because I wanted the tunes. They were nice to have at this point. So again, 260 bucks, and you can knock out the V4 mode disable, and then you could also recalibrate your tires. And if you were to do those things separate, that would probably cost you upwards of about 300 bucks. And then, with this, you get the can tune, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck here. So let's go ahead and pop it open. So these tuners are relatively simple. It looks just like an OBD reader. So you got the tuner itself, the user interface, and then you got the plug that goes into the OBD port underneath the dash. So we're going to go ahead and I'll walk you through how I turn off V4 mode, adjust for tires, and then also I'll show you all the other adjustments you can make inside the tuner. So let's go ahead and plug it in. Now you start with the car off and the keys out of the ignition. So once you plug it in, power is already received by the unit. Then it's going to ask you what you want to do. So do you want to tune? Do you want to scan? So just like an OBD tool. Do you want to look for any diagnostic codes? Or do you want info? Basically what info is your vehicle info and a device info. So real quick, when I bought this unit, the first thing they suggest with any tuner that you buy is make sure you go online and download the latest software to run the tool. That way it's got all the patches and everything installed on it. So that's the first thing I did when I got this a few weeks ago, was I used the provided USB cable, went on my Windows computer, and updated the tuner. And all you do is, I thought there was a port on here. Yeah, there's a USB port down here, and you just plug that right into your computer with the cord that you get. There's no software that comes with it. You just download it. And in this case, you went right to the Autoanything website and downloaded it from their website. So let's get out of device. So left is basically getting out. So let's go to tune. So the first thing it's going to ask you to do is turn your ignition on. Now, if you ever ran an OBD scanner, it's the same thing. You'd have to do the same exact thing as turn the ignition on. So once you turn the ignition on, we'll hit OK. And now it's reading everything. All right, so we got a couple different options. These are the can tunes. So you got performance, which recommends 91 octane. You have a tow tune, which I assume does something with your transmission to make sure that you're not needlessly shifting. You have an 87 octane performance tune, and I think what this does is firms up shift points and does something to the fuel mapping, little minor adjustments. Again, I'm not entirely sure, but I did drive around with it for a little bit, and it did feel a little bit more performance oriented. Then they have their mileage excess save. I haven't used this one yet, but the understanding of this one is this is supposed to make the miles per gallon go up through the roof. Now, since we're deleting the V4 mode, we obviously don't really care too much about this. Then this bottom tune is, it'll run your stock programming, but there's options that you can add on top of it. So that's what we're going to do here. So we'll hit OK. So it says stock with options has no tuning and only changes to option settings. So these are just minor adjustments to certain things, and we'll walk through them. So once you're in there, you could change a lot of the variables. So your rev limiter, your speed limiter, your gear ratio if you increase the gear in your back, and tire size. So that's the first thing we're going to adjust. So 29.5 is the stock set point. We're going to increase that to 33 inches because that's the overall diameter of our new tires. Then we could adjust shift points. AFM and DOD, this is active fuel management and displacement on demand. That's where our V4 mode is going to be impacted, so we're going to disable that. We don't want the car to go into V4 mode. Then you could also adjust any of your TPMS sensors on your front and rear wheels. Your throttle boost, you could basically add a variable to the positioning sensor. You can increase RPM on your idle park and your idle drive by 50 RPM increments. And I'm not sure what upshift torque does. I'll end up messing around with that later on, but for now, we're just going to update the V4 mode. We're going to disable that, and then we're going to update for our larger tires. So once we did that, we're going to hit continue. It's going to send the signal down to the ECM, and then we're going to start rocking and rolling here. So again, this whole time your key is in the on position, but the truck isn't actually on. So it's going to ask you install the stock with options file. We're going to hit OK. It's going to start talking to the truck. And there's a lot of clicking and everything that goes on inside the truck itself. You hear relays triggering, and that's all as a result of your tuner talking with the ECM and the BCM. Or I'm sorry, just the ECM. I don't think it really talks to the BCM. So it's going to start on installing the engine tune. So this is going to tell the well, this may also adjust the tire calibration, but it's going to tell it that we don't want to run V4 mode anymore. So it runs through pretty quickly. Alright, so that took less than a minute. So again, a couple warning messages come up, StabiliTrak and everything, but I think that's because it's starting to reset everything. I don't think that's indicating any sort of issue. Now it's going to establish communication again, and then it's going to upload the transmission file, which we didn't change too much, so this one should be relatively quick. And I believe when you start updating the trans file, this is where those RPM increments and the shift points changing, that's where this all gets uploaded. But again, we didn't touch it, so it's basically taking the stock file and then reloading the stock file back in. I believe if you update your differential gear ratio, this would also impact it as well. I have no need to do any of that stuff, so again, we're just going to reinstall the trans file that came with the vehicle, and we're going to rock and roll from there. So again, start to finish, this takes all of about 5 minutes if you know your way through the navigation window, and it's super user-friendly. It's kind of hard to mess it up. So we are about done. And once you're done, it's going to reset the vehicle, and it's going to tell you to turn off the ignition. Now the other thing I do every time I turn off the ignition, I don't know if this makes a difference, but I also open up the door just to make sure everything shuts off and everything is completely off. Then we're going to hit OK. So with the vehicle on, I wanted to show you a few other things you could do here. So along with uploading tunes on your truck, you can also go into scan, and you have the ability to read battery voltage, which for whatever reason somebody would want to do it. So mine's reading about 15.5, and if you look on my dash, that's pretty accurate to what my dash is reading as well. Now if we go back, so again left arrow, or I'm sorry, OK, we'll get you out of that menu. Then we'll go into the gauges and data log. So our truck's on. So it's going to gather PID information. PID stands for performance indicators. So, or I'm sorry, parameter IDs. So we're going to select up to 8. You have the option to select up to 8 PIDs to show on the screen at any point in time. So basically 8 individual gauges. So we'll hit OK, and here's all these are basically the topics of gauges that you can go and do. So if you want to go into, let's say, air intake parameters that they're monitoring, all of these parameters are being monitored. Now, one thing I did notice is, for instance, they'll have boost pressure down here. My car is naturally aspirated, like most GMs, and it won't have any sort of data for that. It's a data that exists inside the ECM, but it's not loading any sort of variable because there's no sensors or anything loading into it. So it's probably just kind of a blank, it's almost like a blank plug that's sitting down there, or inside the computer programming. So we'll do a few things. We'll do intake air temperature, we'll do mass airflow, and then let's go back and we'll select a few more. So we'll go to throttle details, we'll go to acceleration pedal position. So now we have three options picked. Go to performance, we'll do engine torque. Let's see if that one works. I don't recall if that one was money one. Transmission, so we'll do trans fluid temp. And we'll hit start. So while you are viewing the gauges, you can also data log. So that's the other thing that this tuner does that a lot don't. You could data log all these parameters when you're driving. So if you hit OK while it's monitoring them, it would start loading a file onto the tuner, and then you could drop it down on your computer and use it later on for reference. So we're going to hit OK, and that will open up our gauges here. So we got intake air temperature, mass airflow as far as the volume of air going through there. We got our pedal position, so right now I'm just idling. If I were to hammer on the gas here a little bit, pedal position went all the way up. And that's the physical position of your pedal inside the car. We have engine torque. I don't know how this works, but I know once we're in gear, it starts to read positive numbers. And then we got transmission fluid temperature. So right now it's 48 degrees, which makes sense because I've just been sitting in my driveway and it's 20 degrees outside right now. So again, pretty cool tool. You know, if you want to mess around with it while you're driving around, you can certainly do that. I don't know, I don't advise on trying to load tunes while you're driving around. You got to do the, the on-off with your ignition. But certainly with these gauges, there's no reason why you couldn't load these up and have them, adjust them while you're on the fly. So let's go back real quick. Just another comment. Whenever you go back in here, it deletes all the gauges that you had set up. So you'd have to go back and set everything back up again. So we'll take engine coolant, engine RPM. What else? There's a lot of engine ones. Engine oil temp we'll do. We'll do all of these. Let's test. Alright, so once you hit 8 gauges, it automatically goes into the gauge menu, the gauge view menu. So here's what it looks like with 8 gauges on there. So it's pretty cool. So there's a lot of gauges that, like the interceptor gauge or Banks's Super Gauge 1.8 that came out, that do essentially the computer in your truck. And they just are a nice way to view everything. But tuners do the same exact thing. So with tuners, you get the CAN tunes, you get the ability to load these gauges and monitor, and then you also can adjust for tire size calibration. So again, I'm extremely happy with the TruXP tool. I think it's an awesome tool, and for the price, $260, it is really hard to beat that. I think the range AFM disabler for our trucks is somewhere in the range of $120, $150 on Amazon. So for another $115, $120 more, I get the ability to calibrate for tires, I get the ability to shut off AFM, and then I get CAN tunes and all this monitoring that we can do. So, and I get an OBD reader. So it's a pretty sweet tool, and again, $260 is a no-brainer. So it's on sale right now at Autoanything, so I've been posting a link for people who've been looking at tuners on the Facebook groups that I'm involved in and gmtrucks.com. But again, sweet tool. I have not looked back after turning off AFM. It's been the best thing I could have done to this truck. I know a lot of people don't like it and they think it's a reliability issue. The reason I shut off AFM was because once you go up to bigger tires and I have a louder exhaust, I feel like going in and out of AFM is much more noticeable, not just by the sound, but also you feel the truck shifting in and out. So, overall, happy with the tool, and I'd give it a 5 out of 5 on the star scale here. So again, I'm gonna start messing around with it a little bit more here, but I just wanted to give you a quick run through of the tuner itself and how to do everything. Now, the other thing I did try out the other day is I had to bring my truck into a dealership, and you do have the ability to return everything to stock. So you'd go back into tune, and right below the stock with options option in the tune menu is a stock one. And when you click that, it'll return everything, clear everything, and return it all to stock. So I don't know if that leaves a readable trace on your ECM, but ultimately, yeah, you have the ability to go back to stock, and it's a neat tool. And going back to stock takes all of about 2 minutes. So what I did is I brought this with me. I did it right in the parking lot before I brought my truck in for service, took the tuner with me. When my truck was done, I re-uploaded my AFM disable, my tire calibration, and we're good to go. So thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to get more of these videos out there. But again, TruXP, this is a sweet tool. And again, the TruXP tool, and in my opinion, is the same exact tool as the Flashpack F5 and the Edge Evo HT2 tuner. So if you look at them all, they all physically look the same. Now, whether the CAN tunes on them are all the same, I don't know. But I'm willing to bet that they are all the same. There's no reason that they should be changing these tunes. And I think one company owns all of these tuners at the end of the day. And I think it's Holly is the name of the company, because when you upload the software for updating these guys, the software is owned by Holly, which I think was making carburetors back in the day. So if I had to guess, I'd say Holly owns all of these companies in the back. But again, same tool. It's an awesome tool. It's reliable. And again, $260 was a no-brainer for me. So this was an easy decision. And overall, very happy with it. Just kind of give you the reading DTC, so your diagnostic tuning codes. And obviously I have none. If I had my headers still on the truck, I'd be reading that emission issue, because I had to check engine light because I had the O2s in the back that were basically picking up no cats. Overall, great tool. I would highly recommend it to everyone. So let me know if you got any questions down in the comments below. Thanks a lot.